Hi everyone, Charles from the Food People here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Back today for the 10th episode in our 12-part series, looking at the longer term shifts in food and drink in the COVID era through the lens of our annual trends framework. In this episode, we look at engineered magic that sits as part of the wider social and cultural trend Don't Stop the Gratification, a movement that is centered around breaking down unnecessary barriers, making food and drink consumption as straightforward and as easy as possible. The plant-based revolution was already well underway before the pandemic, largely driven by concerns around health, both personal and planetary, and ethical considerations with regard to industrial agriculture. Now, the current crisis has only increased awareness around these issues and the interest around plant-based eating. Cue even more research, development, innovation and investment in the plant-based sector, as well as a new wave of interest in lab-grown or cultured motherless or cell-based meat, dairy and seafood. So let's start with the world of pho. The plant-based revolution is now bona fide and mainstream, and the pandemic is accelerating it further. COVID-19 has brought attention to the fragility of our traditional food chains and systems, highlighting the impact of animal agriculture on both planetary and personal health. With this in mind, reports of animal-based meat shortages and price increases, while consumers are turning and experimenting to plant-based alternatives. Nestle being one, but also on board are others such as Cargill, Tyson and Purdue. They've all entered the fray with plant-based offerings. Nestle has just announced plans to build a dedicated production facility for plant-based products in China, its first dedicated site for this in Asia. But we must also look at the other end of the spectrum at startups who continue to push the boundaries with innovative products. Daring Foods, Plantable, Rebellious, Perfect Day, just a few of the brands who are securing notable funding and partnerships. We're no longer just talking about nut milks and bleeding burgers. Plant-based lamb, goat, cheese, eggs, fish, chicken, and pork are all becoming increasingly comparable to the real thing in texture, taste, and of course price. With health and safety at the forefront of consumers' minds, there's an increasing pushback against products with complex and lengthy ingredient lists and those that are perceived as over-processed. Increasingly, we see an opportunity for plant-based products that are clean label, i.e. fewer ingredients which occur naturally or have names at least that consumers will recognize. There are already a few companies making headway in this space. Planted and Daring Foods both make chicken alternatives from just 5 or 6 natural ingredients. Then we've got seamitations. Even though demand for seafood is reported to be at an all-time high, consumers still have concerns about sustainability, supply and overfishing. Innovative startups are looking to position plant-based seafood as a long-term solution, taking a cue from the booming popularity of plant-based meat alternatives. However, this revolution is still in its infancy. According to the Good Food Institute, annual sales of fish substitutes in the US are around 10 million compared with 800 million for plant-based meat. As the interest in seafood alternatives rise, change is very much in the air. Even bigger brands are jumping on board and exemplified by the recent partnership between Bumblebee and Good Catch. However, that's just the beginning. Nestle says that it's aiming to debut vegan tuna by the end of 2020, whilst Impossible Foods have announced that it's working on plant-based fish products. Many consumers eat fish and seafood not just for taste, but also for its nutritional value, as they're rich in vitamins and nutrients like omega-3, potassium and magnesium, a particular hot nutrient in the drive for immunity. Therefore, to be truly comparable to the real thing, alternatives need to have similar nutritional credentials. Indeed, proponents argue that plant or cell-based products in the fish world can be even more healthy than their commercially fish counterparts by bypassing fish farming potentially means fewer contaminants. And then we have motherless. Within the motherless meat sector, and by that we mean meat that is cultured, cellular or lab-grown, sustainability and ethical concerns are driving fast-paced innovation, just as in the plant-based sphere. This is all about biotechnology and engineering techniques to produce something that is equivalent to the real thing in terms of taste, texture, and nutritional content. Pioneers in this sector are pushing for large-scale factory production of these products that are currently created in labs and on a small scale. The current pandemic has highlighted awareness of the fragility of our plant and food chains, which has further accelerated interest in this sector. If you thought this was all about the next Impossible Burger, then guess again. Developers are looking to use biotech processes to recreate just about anything in the food world, including whole muscle products such as chicken breast, but also higher end products like foie gras. Indeed, Just Meats have even partnered with a Japanese ranch specializing in Wagyu genetics to develop cultured high-grade Wagyu steak. And let's not forget about dairy. Motive Foodworks are working on recreating the attributes of animal fat structures, which could be used to improve fat performance of alternative cheese and dairy. Think marbled steak and improved melting quality of alternative cheeses. Of course, there are still barriers to overcome, not least regulatory approvals. From food safety standards to definitions, there are a lot of hurdles to jump in this regard. However, consumers themselves are another obstacle the sector has to work through, as they still need to be won over by the new natural. Commercially produced lab-grown meats or labriculture could be a reality after all, and sooner than we think, as fast-paced development and a group of hungry, pioneering startups push the forever-growing boundaries in this super progressive sector that's tackling some of society's biggest food challenges head-on. In this episode, we've highlighted the relevance and shifts that are likely to evolve and develop in the COVID era through the lens of engineered magic. By considering these shifts and how you as a business, brand, startup or entrepreneur pivot and adapt in consideration of them will mean that you're well positioned to succeed in the COVID era in food and drink. In episode 11, we'll be looking at the social and cultural driver, cultural creativity, looking at the megatrend cultural exchange through the lens of COVID-19 and the longer term shifts that we expect to see manifest. So join our TFP community for all of the details of episode 11, all of our recent episodes and all of the latest food and drink trends foresight. Visit thefoodpeople.co.uk and complete your details at the footer of the page. In the meantime, stay safe and keep well, and we'll see you in episode 11. Thanks for listening.